let's talk a little bit about inherited IRAs and those RMDs.
Oh boy. Yes.
Yeah. So if you have an IRA, you're looking to do estate planning. IRAs are probably one of the worst assets to pass on.
So, let me back up and give a small history on that because I've been around a bit longer, especially in this business as well. But there's some strategies we could have used and that we can't use now. But the way RMDs worked was that whoever inherited the IRA, there was a new RMD set for them based on their age and their lifespan. So, say the person who passed away was 78 and their life expectancy is 82. So they had to take out a large percent of their account to cover their RMD. But that gets inherited by their child or even their grandchild who's only in their 40s, late 40s or 50s. Well, now it's based off their lifespan. And so the R&D is much lower. It's stretched out over their life. Then things changed. And so now we have the 10-year rule.
Yeah, we have the 10-year rule. So any IRA that gets inherited that's not inherited by a spouse has to be spent within 10 years. Now, if you're a spouse, you have the option to either treat it as an inherited IRA and take it over that 10 years, or you can roll it into your own IRA.
So why would you want to leave it as an inherited IRA if you're the spouse?
If you're under 59 and a half.
Absolutely.
It means that you can access it penalty-free. You still have to pay taxes on it, but penalty-free.
Right.
Now, what we have also done is someone had an inherited a spousal inherited IRA, and then they reached 59 and a half, and then we rolled that IRA into their own IRA. And the reason that we did that is because they no longer had to take RMDs until much later. Until they're 73, instead of having to take RMDs every single year.
So the biggest difference in that law, in that 10-year window, is it's not a big deal if you're inheriting a $25,000 IRA. You take out a tenth of it a year to take it all out in 10 years as $2,500.
Right.
But if you inherit a $500,000, a $1.5 million, a $4 million IRA, that's a lot of money you have to take out and pay taxes on. And what if you have a good job and you're making a couple $100,000 a year on top of that?
Yeah. So think about, most people inherit money from their parents, right?
Sorry. You may not, but
we'll see. We'll see. He may go early and I might get something.
I know.
So most people inherit money from their parents. Also, most parents likely die whenever they're in their 70s or 80s, which would also mean that most kids inherit their parents' monies whenever they're in their 50s and 60s.
For the record, my grandparents lived into their 90s, but that's a different story. Go on.
So what you could see is that, parents at 70 or 80 likely having the most amount of assets they've ever had before, then give those assets to their kid in their 50s and 60s, who is also likely in their peak earning years. They're earning more today than they've probably ever earned in their entire life. It's probably one of the first times that they actually look back and said, I'm actually making more than I need. It's probably the first time that actually happens. Say you're in the 32% tax bracket. Mom, dad gives you $1 million IRA. Probably 40% of that is going to be lost to taxes. So of that $1 million IRA, probably about 400,000 of that is going to go to taxes.
That's real sad.
That is sad. It's a lot of money because if you were in the let's call it 25 bracket with, state taxes kind of add in a little bit, that would instead be 250, which is still a lot, but it's a whole lot less than 400,000 if it had just happened a couple of decades earlier, or alternatively a couple of decades later. But it's that timing that's really, really common that just makes it to where there's a big, what I would call it a leakage almost. I mean, it's like you have a water pipe and there's just a big hole punched in it, and that's all the money just flowing into Uncle Sam, just flowing away from you.
And he's saying, thank you, more.
And that's what that 10-year rule did.
Did.
I mean, you have to take that out, and it's likely going to be whenever you're making the most amount you've ever made, paying the highest taxes, and then you'll pay even higher.
Yes. And I think that was the point.
It definitely was. It definitely was. So that was the Tax Cuts and Job Act. Oh, wait. No, that was Secure 2.0.
Secure 2.0.
Sorry, that was Secure 2.0 that changed that rule. And I would say that most people in kind of middle class America, the largest inheritance is probably going to be an IRA. And so it took probably other than maybe a house, a primary residence. So it took what was probably going to be the largest inheritance, especially liquid inheritance, and then made it taxed way more.
So I will say there's a little bit of pros and cons to that. It is a big con, more than outweighed the pro. But the previous law was pretty confusing as well. It depended on whether the deceased person had started their RMDs or didn't start their RMDs. So here it simplified it. And if you're not a spouse, you inherit a 10-year rule. That's kind of easy, especially from a planning standpoint. Client confusion, a lot less.
Just 10 years.
10 years. But the downside is you're going to pay taxes. And if you inherit a lot, it'll be a lot of taxes.
If you've made it to the end of this video, please like, subscribe, follow for more. We'll be going over retirement distribution strategies more in the future, as well as a bunch of other fun stuff, whether that be cash management, equity compensation, and business owner strategies that we use here that really, really help the business owners that we're working with.
I like it that you describe that as fun stuff. It's fun for us. Anyways.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Join us the next time. Thanks.